I'm 79 now, and most days pass without anyone saying my name out loud. It used to be said often, sometimes too often. In rooms filled with people, in low voices that leaned toward me, in laughter that waited for my reaction. I remember that clearly. It's one of the few things that hasn't faded. I don't say that with pride, not anymore. These days I sit by the window in the late afternoon, when the light turns a softer colour. It makes the room feel less empty. I've learned how to measure time by small things, how long the kettle takes to cool, how the shadows stretch across the floor, how quiet a house can become when no one is expected. There's a kind of stillness that comes at this age. Not peace, just stillness. I think about the years when everything seemed to be moving quickly, when I didn't notice time at all. Back then, I thought life was something that would continue unfolding, no matter what I chose or ignored. I thought there would always be more of it waiting. I was wrong about that. When I was younger, my 20s into my 30s, I was the kind of woman people noticed. I don't mean that modestly or boastfully. It was simply true. I walked into a room and I could feel it before I even saw it. Conversations would shift, eyes would follow, doors opened easily. I didn't question it. I accepted it the way you accept good weather. You don't wonder how long it will last, you just assume it's normal. Men were kind to me, generous, attentive. Some of them loved me in ways I didn't understand at the time. I thought affection was something that would always be available, like a resource I didn't need to manage carefully. I had options. That's the word people used. As if life were a menu and I could take my time choosing. And I did take my time. I worked in an office downtown for several years. It wasn't important work. Filing, answering calls, keeping track of schedules that didn't belong to me. But I liked the routine. I liked dressing in the morning, knowing I would be seen. I liked the quiet admiration more than I ever admitted. There was a man there, Daniel. He had a calm way about him, not loud, not flashy, the kind of person you don't notice immediately, but you remember later. He used to walk me to the bus stop. Not every day, just enough that it became familiar. We talked about ordinary things, weather, work, what we had for dinner the night before. Once he told me about a small house he wanted to buy someday. Nothing grand, just a place with a garden. I remember thinking how small that sounded, how limited. He asked me once if I ever thought about settling down. I laughed, not to be cruel, but because the idea felt distant. I told him I wasn't ready, that I wanted more from life. He nodded like he understood, and maybe he did. After a while, he stopped walking me to the bus. Not abruptly, just less often, until it didn't happen at all. I didn't go after him. I assumed if something mattered enough, it would return on its own. That was a pattern for me. Letting things drift, believing they would circle back if they were meant to. There were other men, more exciting ones, at least on the surface. Dinners in nicer places, weekends away, conversations that felt bigger, louder. I mistook that for depth. I told myself I was living fully, that I was experiencing everything before making any permanent decisions. But what I was really doing was postponing. I didn't notice how time was passing because nothing forced me to. I still looked the same in the mirror. People still treated me the same way. It felt like standing still, even though everything was quietly moving forward. In my 40s, things began to change, but not in a way that announced itself clearly. It was subtle, a little less attention here, a conversation that didn't quite linger the way it used to, invitations that became less frequent. I told myself it was just a phase, that I was imagining it. I focused more on work. I had moved into a better position by then, more responsibility, more stability. It filled the hours. It gave me something to point to when I thought about my life. But work doesn't sit with you in the evenings. It doesn't notice when you stop talking. There was a period when I thought about reaching out to people I had let go. Daniel crossed my mind more than once. I even found his name in an old address book. I didn't call. I told myself it would be awkward, that too much time had passed, that he had probably moved on. All of that may have been true, but it wasn't the real reason. The real reason was that I wasn't used to being the one who reached out. I had spent so many years being approached, being chosen. It didn't occur to me, not deeply enough, that there would come a time when that would stop. By the time I reached my 50s, the shift was undeniable. People still saw me, but differently. I wasn't the centre of attention anymore. I was part of the background. At first it felt like a small loss, something I could adjust to. But it wasn't just attention that faded. It was connection. The friendships I had weren't deep. We had shared moments, not foundations. Many of them had built families, lives that didn't have space for me in the same way anymore. I had never built that for myself. I kept thinking there was time. There's a particular kind of silence that settles in when you realize no one is waiting for you. Not in a dramatic way, just in the small, daily sense. No one expecting your call. No one noticing if you don't speak. I started to feel that silence more often. The moment I understood things wouldn't change came quietly. I was 62. I remember because it was the year I retired. There was a small gathering at the office. Cake, polite speeches, a few hugs. People said I would be missed. And for a little while, I believed them. But after I left, the phone didn't ring the way I thought it might. A few calls at first, then fewer, then none. One afternoon, I walked past the building where I used to work. I don't know why, habit maybe. I looked up at the windows, trying to imagine the life still going on inside. My life, once. No one looked down. No one knew I was there. That was the first time I felt truly outside of everything. Around that same time, I heard about Daniel. It came through someone I used to know, casual conversation, nothing significant. They mentioned his name in passing, said he had passed away a few years earlier. A heart condition, I think. I remember nodding as if it were just another piece of information. But something shifted inside me. Later that night, I sat with that knowledge. He had built the life he once described, the small house, the garden, a wife, children. I wasn't part of any of it, not even as a memory most likely. I tried to remember the last time I had spoken to him. I couldn't. That was when it became clear. It wasn't just that I had lost something. It was that I had allowed it to pass without ever fully seeing it. There was no single mistake, no dramatic turning point. Just years of assuming there would be more time, more chances, more moments to decide. And then there weren't. What's lost now isn't just youth. It's not just beauty or attention. It's the chance to be known deeply by someone over a lifetime. It's the ordinary intimacy of shared days, the kind that doesn't feel important while it's happening. I don't have stories about raising children or growing old with someone who watched me change gradually, who understood the quiet parts of me. I have fragments, faces, moments that didn't lead anywhere. Sometimes I try to piece them together, but they don't form a life. Not in the way I thought they would. People assume regret comes with sharp edges, that it's loud or overwhelming. But for me, it's quieter than that. It sits in the background. In the empty chair across the table. In the way I hesitate before speaking because there's no one to answer. It's in the realization that I was once surrounded by attention, but not by permanence. And attention fades. I don't blame anyone. Not the men who walked away, or the friends who moved on. They were building their lives. I was delaying mine. If you're listening to me, I won't tell you what to do. I wouldn't know how. I can only tell you what I didn't understand then. That being wanted is not the same as being known. That having many options can sometimes mean choosing none. That time doesn't announce when it's running out on certain kinds of chances. I thought I could wait until I felt completely sure, until something stood out clearly as the right choice. But life doesn't always offer that kind of clarity in the moment. Sometimes it only becomes clear in absence. I don't know if things would have been better if I had chosen differently. That's another part of it. You don't get to compare. You just live with the path that formed from all the small decisions you barely noticed making. Now, at 79, my world is smaller. I have my routines, my window, my quiet afternoons. There are days when I don't speak at all. And I don't mean that as a complaint. It's just the way things are. I've learned to sit with it. There's a certain honesty that comes when there's nothing left to maintain. No image, no expectation. I was the woman everyone wanted. That sentence used to mean something. Now it feels like it belonged to someone else. Someone I remember, but don't quite recognize. If there's anything I wish, it's not to go back. That's not possible. I just wish I had understood that being seen isn't the same as being held in someone's life. And that the quiet, ordinary connections, the ones that don't impress anyone, are the ones that remain. It's late afternoon now. The light is fading again. In a little while I'll make tea, even if I don't feel like drinking it, just to have something warm in my hands. There's comfort in small things when the larger ones are gone. I don't expect anything to change from here. This is the shape my life has taken, and I'm still here, inside it. That has to be enough.